The accuracy is undeniable. Everything about Shador Sanders screams franchise quarterback. But here's the reality. If people were determined to be negative back in April, they were always going to be negative now. The conversation always circles back to the same lazy question. Where is he ranked? Forget the rankings. Look at the context. Look at the interceptions that bounced off Jerry Jeudy's hands. Look at the ball that glanced off a receiver's shoulder. Look at the batted passes, the same kind of plays we just saw from Joe Burrow, who had a batted ball turn into a pick six just yesterday. Are we blaming Burrow for that? Of course not. So why is Shedeur being crucified for a couple of tipped balls that turned into interceptions? If we're being honest, if we're being fair, we shouldn't be. And that's exactly where Mel Kiper Jr. stepped in and absolutely dismantled the Cleveland media narrative. He didn't tiptoe around it. He didn't soften his words. He flat out exposed them for lying about Shador Sanders' stats and performance. If you followed the Browns this season, you know it's been a brutal emotional ride. Frustration, disappointment, and only brief flashes of hope. But what many fans don't realize is that behind the scenes, certain voices in Cleveland media have been aggressively pushing a storyline that Shador Sanders has been a letdown, that he failed to meet expectations, and that the Browns should already be looking elsewhere for their quarterback of the future. According to Mel Kiper Jr., that narrative isn't just wrong, it's dishonest. That's not changing, Kiper said, emphasizing that Shedeur performance held up in both ideal conditions and brutal weather alike. And he made it crystal clear, if you weren't impressed by Shador Sanders' rookie season, you're not analyzing football. You're pushing an agenda. Let that sink in. One of the most respected evaluators in football just accused local media of outright dishonesty. This isn't a harmless difference of opinion or a debate about quarterback rankings. Kiper is saying the facts are being twisted, the context deliberately ignored, and the truth buried under layers of bias and negativity. So what exactly did Mel Kiper say that sent shockwaves through the Browns conversation? He exposed the hypocrisy, he laid bare the double standards, and he did it in a way that was impossible to dismiss. Yes, Shador Sanders threw interceptions this season. No one is denying that mistakes happened. He had moments where he looked exactly like what he is, a rookie adjusting to the speed, pressure, and complexity of the NFL. But this is where Kiper completely shattered the media narrative. Why is Shador relentlessly criticized for interceptions, while Joe Burrow, who also threw interceptions this season, continues to be praised as elite? Why is Burrow's mistakes framed as bad luck, protection breakdowns, or miscommunication with receivers, while Shador's mistakes are treated as proof that he's not the guy? The contrast is staggering. Burrow is a seasoned veteran with years in the league, multiple training camps, endless first-team reps, and full organizational commitment behind him. Shador Sanders, on the other hand, is a rookie in his first NFL season. And yet when Burrow throws picks, excuses are made. When Shador does it, he's suddenly labeled a bust. Suddenly, the Browns need to move on. Suddenly, he's not franchise material. That logic doesn't hold up. And Mel Kiper called it out for what it really is, a double standard rooted in something far removed from honest football analysis. And here's the part that makes this even more infuriating for anyone who values fairness. This was Shador Sanders' rookie year, and he walked into one of the toughest situations imaginable for a young quarterback. This wasn't a stable franchise with a strong offensive line, proven weapons, and patience to develop a rookie. This was Cleveland, a desperate organization battling injuries, inconsistency, and decades of quarterback trauma. The pressure was enormous from day one. Kiper pointed out something that completely dismantles the criticism. Before the season even began, Shador Sanders did not receive a single first-team rep, not one. Let that register. No time with the starters. No chemistry built with the first-team offensive line. No preseason rhythm. No developmental runway. The Browns essentially handed him the ball and said, figure it out. Thrown into hostile environments, brutal weather, no dome protection, no safety net, and yet Shador Sanders didn't just survive. He showed flashes of brilliance. He displayed composure under pressure. He delivered throws that reignited belief in a fan base starving for hope. He demonstrated calm, control, and confidence in moments that break lesser quarterbacks. And that's the part the narrative doesn't want you to focus on, because if you do, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. They had finally found their quarterback of the future. Mel Kiper was right about Shedeur, and everything we've witnessed on the field has validated that assessment. This young man was producing even under the harshest conditions, the kind of late-season Cleveland games where the wind cuts sideways, snow blankets the field, and even veteran quarterbacks struggle to complete routine throws. And yet, despite all of this, despite the context, despite the circumstances, the Cleveland media continues to distort reality. They keep pushing narratives that simply do not align with what's happening on the field. Every time Shador Sanders accomplishes something positive, the goalposts mysteriously shift. The standards change. The praise disappears. No example illustrates this more clearly than Jason Lloyd. Let's talk about Jason Lloyd, because his coverage perfectly embodies everything Mel Kiper has been calling out. Lloyd had nothing to say when Shador Sanders wasn't receiving a single first-team rep. Where was the outrage then? Where were the articles questioning why the rookie quarterback was being denied proper preparation? Where was the accountability for the coaching staff? Instead, Lloyd spent the entire offseason hyping Dillon Gabriel, portraying him as the potential solution for the Browns, all while never once asking when Shador would get his opportunity with the starters. "He can get them into the right calls," Lloyd said. "He can line them up, complete passes, get the ball out quickly, keep the chains moving, and not turn the ball over." Think about that. Lloyd was perfectly comfortable watching Shador sit on the sidelines without development, without reps, without rhythm, while showering praise on another quarterback. But the moment Dillon Gabriel failed, and the moment Shador finally got his opportunity and started winning games, the tone changed instantly. Suddenly, the same Jason Lloyd was publishing pieces declaring that Shador Sanders cannot be QB1 for the Browns next season. Suddenly, Shador wasn't good enough. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. Meanwhile, Lloyd continued defending Gabriel, even suggesting he'd be competent in his first NFL start overseas. Not a star, not elite, but serviceable. The audacity is staggering. The lack of self-awareness is breathtaking, and the dishonesty is exactly what Mel Kiper Jr. has exposed for the entire football world to see. Where was Lloyd's journalistic integrity when it actually mattered? Where was his advocacy for fairness during the offseason? Where was the demand that the rookie be given a legitimate chance to develop? He was silent. Completely silent. But now that Shador Sanders has stepped up, now that he's shown poise, toughness, and ability in the face of impossible circumstances, suddenly Lloyd has plenty to say, and none of it is constructive. So let's be clear, because someone has to cut through the noise. Shador Sanders is the Browns' only real hope right now. That isn't hyperbole. It isn't blind fandom. And it isn't ignoring his mistakes. It's simply acknowledging reality and recognizing what Shedeur has already proven in limited opportunities. There is no debate about the impact he's made. Take the Raiders game as a prime example. Shedeur threw his first NFL touchdown and finished with 206 passing yards. Paired with Myles Garrett's defensive dominance, that performance led Cleveland to a win. That's not an accident. That's a rookie quarterback stepping into a high-pressure environment and delivering when it mattered most. This wasn't garbage time production against a soft prevent defense. This was meaningful football in a game the Browns needed to win. Shedeur displayed composure. He showed accuracy. He made plays under pressure. He connected with his receivers, managed the game efficiently, and executed exactly what the coaching staff asked of him. And the result? A victory. But did the Cleveland media celebrate it? Did they acknowledge that something real might be developing? Of course not. They moved the goalposts again and searched for new angles to criticize, and that, more than anything, tells you exactly why Mel Kiper Jr. was right to call this out. You know, Scott, I think we saw significant growth from Shador this year, mentally and physically, in how he played the position. For a young team, quarterback development is obviously critical. We made progress in some areas, but in others, quite frankly, we didn't see enough. And that rep distribution may need to look very different moving forward. That statement changed everything. Browns GM Andrew Barry has effectively confirmed it. Kevin Stefanski was dismissed because he failed to properly develop Shador Sanders and other promising rookies. This wasn't speculation. This wasn't rumor. This was a front office acknowledgement that player development, particularly with an exceptional rookie class, fell short. And when you step back and look at everything that's unfolded over the past few months, the decision makes complete sense. Barry didn't sugarcoat his words. He made it abundantly clear that the inability to cultivate young talent, especially this rookie group, played a major role in the decision to part ways with Stefanski. One word stood out above all others: ignored. That word tells you everything. When you draft talented players, especially a quarterback like Shador Sanders, who has already demonstrated elite football intelligence, you cannot afford to leave them standing on the sidelines, watching instead of learning. Development doesn't happen in theory. It happens through live reps, real pressure, and real consequences. Barry reinforced that point directly. We feel it's critical, this year and moving forward, to give young players meaningful snaps if we're truly going to build the foundation needed to win consistently. That wasn't just a general statement, it was an indictment, because buried within that message was an unmistakable truth. Shador Sanders did not receive the reps he deserved. Think about that. You have a quarterback with elite pedigree, someone mentored by one of the greatest players ever to play the position, and you deny him the repetitions required to grow at the NFL level. That isn't a developmental oversight. That's coaching malpractice. Reps are oxygen for a young quarterback. You need live bullets. You need to feel the speed of the game. You need to make mistakes, absorb the lessons, and evolve in real time. Limiting Shador's opportunities didn't just stunt his growth, it jeopardized the future of the entire organization. And yet, despite those limitations, Barry still praised what Shedeur showed on the field. He highlighted Shedor's playmaking ability, his accuracy, his mobility, and his growth in pocket management and situational awareness, crediting both the player and the offensive staff for incremental progress. But then came the pivot. The quarterback position is too important, Barry said. We're going to do our work on the market. That wasn't uncertainty, that was diligence. Barry also acknowledged another glaring issue, the offensive line. And for the first time in years, the Browns' leadership openly committed to fixing it. This matters because no young quarterback, no matter how gifted, can succeed without protection. You cannot drop a developing quarterback behind a broken offensive line and expect greatness. The line has plagued Cleveland for years, and Barry finally addressed it head-on. Improving protection through the draft signals long-term thinking, not desperation. If Shador Sanders is going to become the franchise quarterback this organization believes he can be, he must be surrounded with real support. Time in the pocket, functional run lanes, balance, structure. That's how quarterbacks grow. Every successful franchise in the NFL understands this truth. Everything starts up front. If your quarterback is constantly under siege, talent becomes irrelevant. So no, this wasn't shocking. The moment Andrew Barry walked into the locker room to personally speak with Shador Sanders, the message was clear. Barry is different. He's present, he's invested, he believes. That moment mattered. It showed that Barry isn't just a front office executive watching from a luxury suite. He's in the trenches. He's sending a message to his quarterback and to the entire organization that Shador Sanders is part of the future. When a general manager takes the time to personally connect with a rookie quarterback, it sends a powerful signal. You matter. We believe in you, and we're building around you. It also sends a message to everyone else, coaches included. If the GM is willing to commit at that level, everyone else is expected to rise to the standard. And now, all signs point to Shador Sanders leading this team at quarterback. That conclusion isn't speculative, it's logical. It aligns with Barry's words, his actions, and the direction of the organization. Barry isn't making empty promises. He's committing resources. He's reshaping the roster. He's doing what good general managers do, putting young quarterbacks in position to succeed. And ownership is backing him. Jimmy Haslam publicly affirmed his confidence in Andrew Barry's vision, acknowledging that Barry assembled this rookie class and deserves the authority to see it through. That endorsement matters. When ownership aligns with the GM, real change becomes possible. Haslam made it clear, Barry built this class. Stefanski didn't develop it, and that's why the change was made. That's how competent organizations operate, with alignment from the top down. Multiple rookies earned first and second team all-rookie honors. Carson is even in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year. This wasn't a failed draft. It was a failed development structure, and Haslam's comments confirm it. Barry had a vision. He executed it through the draft and free agency. Now he's ensuring the coaching staff matches that vision, because drafting well earns you time. But failing to develop talent forces change. Ownership took responsibility. 8 wins in 2 years was deemed unacceptable. This wasn't personal. Stefanski is widely respected, but in the NFL, results and development determine survival. And in Cleveland, the message is finally clear. Shador Sanders is the future, and this organization is finally acting like it. Whenever you hear the media bring up QBR, they act as if those 3 letters tell the entire story. They love to repeat that Shador finished near the bottom among starting quarterbacks, as if that single metric defines a young player's future. But Andrew Barry made it clear that he isn't building this franchise around noise, rankings, or surface-level stats. When asked what he wants to see from Shedeur this offseason and what he's seen over the last 7 weeks building toward 2026, Barry didn't hesitate. He emphasized continued growth. Shador earned valuable experience this year, starting 7 games, which is massive for a young quarterback. Barry pointed specifically to pocket management and situational awareness, areas that only improve with reps, film study, and real NFL snaps. The expectation is clear: take a meaningful leap forward by week 1. And here's where things get uncomfortable for Cleveland media. During the Cincinnati game, it became obvious what was coming, and I know this is going to be heartbreaking news for certain voices at ESPN Cleveland, 92.3 The Fan, and the usual podcast circuit. They're not reporting it, but I will. Andrew Barry just shut down the speculation. He confirmed that Shador Sanders is the Browns' Week 1 starter. No guessing games, no manufactured controversy. Barry's message couldn't be clearer. He's not distracted by stat sheet debates or QBR obsession. He's focused on development, trust, and trajectory. Shador played real football last season. 7 starts, real pressure, real adversity. That matters far more than cherry-picked numbers. Barry wants Shador to continue refining the details, managing the pocket, reading situations, commanding the offense. That's how quarterbacks are built. Not through fantasy stats, but through steady, layered growth. And Barry believes Shador is the right man to lead this team into the next season. Now compare that to how certain Cleveland media figures handle this story. They crave drama more than truth. They fixate on numbers while ignoring progress. They judge Shador without ever allowing him a fair runway. Every positive moment is minimized. Every mistake is magnified. QBR gets weaponized as if football is played on spreadsheets. Meanwhile, Andrew Barry, the man actually running the franchise, is making the decisions. And if anyone understands what this team is building, it's him, not the talking heads yelling from the sidelines. The contrast is obvious. The media wants controversy. The front office wants stability. Barry's confidence in Shador is a direct rebuke to the doubters. He's made it clear Shador will be the starter in Week 1, regardless of the noise. That reality is painful for those who thrive on quarterback uncertainty. But Barry isn't interested in selling stories. He's interested in moving the Browns forward. The real story is simple. Shador Sanders is the future, and Andrew Barry is standing firmly behind him. No spin can change that. Barry also addressed how the quarterback situation factors into the head coaching search. While it will be discussed with candidates, he emphasized that it's less about their opinion of Shador and more about how they plan to develop and build around him. That tells you everything. The Browns aren't looking for a coach who complains about the quarterback position. They're looking for one who supports it, enhances it, and grows it. That's trust. Looking back at the Cincinnati game, Barry described it as a defining moment. Even though Shador struggled early and didn't have his best outing, he showed exactly what matters most. When the game was on the line, he settled in, led the offense, and delivered a scoring drive when the team absolutely needed it. That's leadership. In the NFL, no quarterback is perfect every week. Defenses are too good, the margins are too thin. What separates real quarterbacks is the ability to respond. And Shador did exactly that. Barry's evaluation was balanced and honest, focused on maturity and situational command rather than unrealistic perfection. Overall, Barry's comments reflect a calm, disciplined belief in Shedeur. He acknowledges the challenges, recognizes the growth, and sees the leadership traits emerging. The Browns are building around him, expecting continued improvement, and trusting him with the responsibility that comes with being the franchise quarterback. For anyone paying attention, the message is unmistakable. Shedeur is firmly in the Browns' plans, and he will have organizational support moving forward. And then you've got Jason Lloyd saying, "I don't think Shedeur should be on the team, period." Meanwhile, Andrew Barry is saying, "I want to see him take major strides going into week 1, through the offseason, training camp, and preseason." That contrast tells you everything. Andrew Barry isn't confused, he isn't reckless, and he certainly isn't moving on from Shador. This team is not getting rid of him. Shador Sanders is the franchise quarterback, and let's not forget the context. Shador played behind a broken offensive line. Go back and watch the Buffalo game. Defenders were in the backfield immediately. Left side collapsing, right side collapsing. Pressure non-stop. And despite all of that, he stood in there and competed. That's not a bust. That's a quarterback you build around.